It's over 9,000!
Welcome, Super Elite Warriors, to Final Forum, a podcast for the discussion of all things Dragon Ball. I am your host, Jelli, an elite recruiting member of the Frieza Force on a mission to find the best warriors from across the galaxy to join the greatest army of all time, and I am joined, as always, by my new recruit co-host.
This is the Bekinney, and join us as we uncover the cultural inspirations and hidden history behind Akira Toriyama's seminal franchise. And I can't believe you think you saw that.
I know, right?
It's just out there?
That's what I thought. We know their origins and habitats. It seems super unlikely.
Maybe you were just mistaken.
That's why I'd like to follow the blips, see if we can confirm or deny my split-second, partially blinded observation.
But the blips are off our scope and have been for a while. Also, why are there two of them? Did you see two?
I didn't, but maybe one was chasing the other.
For what purpose?
Remember the first year we were together?
Well, I try to forget, but unfortunately a great many of our adventures haunt my dreams.
So then you probably have an idea.
You don't think?
I do.
We have to stop that from happening, at all costs.
At all costs? We took care of things last time.
At a massive cost. We don't have the luxury of being able to sacrifice this time.
Well...
Listen, I'm not dying for you. Not any more than I already have.
Well, that's just poor attitude.
Hey, do you think our listeners have any idea what we're talking about?
I hadn't considered that.
Aren't you the one who is always supposed to be considering the listeners? Addressing them and bringing them up to speed with us so that the show kind of flows?
If you're suggesting that I'm being purposefully vague simply to frustrate listeners and get some padding before telling people what's going on, I'm going to be upset.
Well, I wasn't suggesting that. Sounds maybe like somebody's projecting.
No, that was a couple weeks ago when we watched The World's Strongest and I projected it onto a screen. Now I'm trying to make sure you understand what we might be dealing with here.
I do. I just don't know if everyone else does.
I think our listeners are smart.
Do you think they're dedicated enough to remember past adventures?
Well, I contemplate this. How about we get into this week's topic? And this week is time for more Dragon Ball Z. We are going to do episodes 40.
46 through 50.
We're doing the Finnish episodes, the fjords and...
Ah, yes.
Right,
Scandinavian.
Finland, right, has the fjords?
I think so.
Anyone out there listening?
I'm sure some angry Scandinavian will correct us at some point.
Oh, it's not Finland, it's the Netherlands.
Yeah.
But,
all right.
We're just going to steal your land anyway, so...
Oh, okay. Anyways.
Before we get into the recaps that we normally do, I've been told that this would be a good place to put in some of our CTAs. So... Okay. Make sure you are subscribed on whatever, if you're listening to this, and that you rate and review us. Those are the two big ones. I would love to climb up the algorithms so that when you search for Dragon Ball, we're, one of the top shows that people see. That way, people see us instead of shows that are defunct, and that they see us instead of two dudes who don't know what they're talking about. Or three dudes. Or five dudes. Or two dudes
Listen,
and a chick.
We're not calling out any other podcasts.
I'm not
we're just
attempting
saying,
to. Not by
We're just
name.
saying it would be nice if maybe we rose up the ranks a little bit.
And then also make sure to follow us on our socials, especially Blue Sky. That's where we're doing most of our work these days. So with that, let's get into these batch of episodes.
All right. So yeah, we're doing episodes 46 through 50. So we'll start with episode 46 titled Defying Orders. So Team Namek, that's Krillin, Gohan, and Bulma, for those of you who have just joined us this episode, have finally made their way to the real Namek and have already gotten their ship damaged by some of Frieza's henchmen. They're planning to hold up in a cave for safety when Krillin senses a powerful key heading straight for them. They duck for cover, and soon Frieza and all of his henchmen pass by without noticing them. Phew! The boys lament their lack of power compared to Frieza, but soon realize that they are headed for the Namekians that Krillin sensed earlier. The boys head out to scout while Bulma stays behind to set up HQ. She decides to give Earth a call, which we'll get into in this episode because that's mind-blowing, to check in on Goku, who is once again in the hospital. She updates Roshi on the situation, and he passes on the news to Goku while casually sexually harassing the nurse. Things are looking pretty dire when Yajirobe shows up just in time with a few senzu. Goku takes one immediately and is healed. It looks like he's already cooked up a plan to get another spaceship design out of his old Saiyan space pod with Bulma's dad. Oh, and there's a fun little scene here when Goku arrives with Bulma's mom, and we're just kind of casually reminded again that the briefs are probably swingers.
Yes.
Back on Namek, Krillin and Gohan have tracked down Frieza's party, who are currently extorting a village of Namekians for their Dragon Ball. So Frieza's about to collect ball number 5, and Goku has just started training at 20 times Earth's gravity, which brings us to our next episode, episode 47, Namek's Defense. So Goku's officially on his way to Namek, but it'll take him 6 days to get there. This leaves us with nearly a week-long 3-way game of cat and mouse between Team Namek, Vegeta, and Frieza. Frieza has the upper hand by getting a head start. He's already working on collecting ball number 5. There's supposed to be trials that anyone seeking the Dragon Balls can complete to prove their worth and thus be gifted the Dragon Ball to have their wish. But when Frieza was deemed not a man of valor, he decided on the faster route of murder. Frieza's men gloat about the Namekians' pathetic power levels, but they inadvertently tip their hand. One of the elders figures out that the scouters are how they find the villages on Namek. The farmers put up way more of a fight than Frieza's men anticipated, since they can't actually sense power levels. They blast through all of these weaklings, these underlings that Frieza has, while the elder starts to get a bead on all of the remaining scouters that these guys have on them. He finally makes his move and destroys them before anybody can react, stymieing Frieza's efforts. And that brings us to episode 48, titled The Hunted. So the Elder managed to take out the rest of the scouters and slow Frieza's progress in what I consider to be the move that ensures Frieza's downfall. We can get into that later if you want, but I'm sticking with that. It would seem small random acts of sabotage are a surefire way to fight back against fascist uprisings. Who knew? Also, some great art. Yeah. Also, some really great art in the opening scene on this ep. I always like calling out the really good art in episodes, just because it makes the viewing experience so much better. Mm-hmm. The Elder seems screwed at first, but Frieza redirects Doria's rage back to the farmers. I guess the other half to consider is that fascist retaliation is often violent and non-proportional. Dodoria takes the farmers down quickly and easily. The Elder sees that he's lost the battle and agrees to hand over the Dragon Ball, possibly in hopes of winning the war. Frieza then immediately reneges on the deal, and 2 of the 3 Namekians, 2 of them children and 1 is this old man, are immediately taken out. So it's one kid, one old guy, which not a great look for Frieza. No. Killing children like this.
No.
So 2 of the 3 remaining Namekians are killed by Dodoria, but Gohan intervenes before the last one is wiped out. He and Krillin rescue the kid and take off, but Dodoria manages to regain his senses and takes off after them. Frieza decides to atomize a mountain by looking at it in response. I guess he's unhappy with this turn of events. Dodoria catches up and starts firing a salvo after our heroes, and they almost lose the kid in the process. Krillin drops him and has to go dive and save him. Mm-hmm. But with a well-timed solar flare, the trio managed to escape and find a hiding spot, which leads us to episode 49, titled The Prince Fights Back. So the boys managed to give Dodoria the slip. Clearly, he'll have to give up and return to Frieza empty-handed, or maybe he'll just blow up this entire section of the planet and make sure they're dead. One nuke later, and it looks like the boys managed to survive by just flying straight up out of the explosion, which, okay. Without his scouter, Dodoria completely misses them, and they manage to escape. At home base, Bulma's having a nice bubble bath and talking to her father in real time. Again, we're going to talk about that this episode. Dr. Briefs informs Bulma that Goku is on his way, but he doesn't have a functioning stereo in the new ship. Turns out that's not really a problem because Goku forgot to turn off the gravity machine and he's destroyed the living quarters trying to take a post-lunch nap. Speaking of train wrecks, on his way back to Frieza, Dodoria gets blindsided by a very scarily happy Vegeta. Dodoria demands Vegeta hand over his scouter or face his wrath. Vegeta calls his bluff and puts him into an arm lock. At this point, two things happen. Vegeta lore dumps about Saiyan warriors becoming stronger simply through fighting tougher opponents, and Dodoria drops that he has insider knowledge on planet Vegeta's destruction, which was the homeworld of the Saiyans. He offers that information in exchange for his life. Vegeta begrudgingly agrees, and Dodoria reveals that Frieza was the one who destroyed the Saiyan homeworld, not a meteor. Vegeta decides this info isn't worth sparing Dodoria's life and destroys him instantly. One real quick thing I did forget to mention there. Prior to the fight, Vegeta destroys his own scouter as well. So there are still no functioning scouters on planet Namek.
Correct.
So that leads us into episode 50, titled Unexpected Problem. So Dodoria's literal dust now, but Vegeta still wants to investigate these Earthlings Dodoria mentioned as well. With a little sensing, Vegeta's soon hot on the trail of Krillin, Gohan, and Dende. They realize Vegeta can sense ki, which is a big problem because Dende can't fully extinguish his own. Vegeta nearly finds them, but a giant fish happens to jump up out of nearby water, which kind of puts Vegeta off their trail, thinking that he'd sensed the fish instead of, them. The boys continue the trip home on foot this time, which gives Krillin ample time to detail their dire circumstances and lack of hope to a 6-year-old boy. Just drama dumping on a child. They find Bulma in her capsule house squirreled away in the cave. Luckily, she has some great news to share to counteract Krillin's dour demeanor. Goku's on his way. Hooray! Speaking of Goku, it would seem Dr. Briefs has gotten a damage alarm on the exterior of the ship, which, again, like being able to know what the status of the ship is in real time is insane, but we're just going to ignore that for now. So anyways, this means that Goku needs to get out onto the exterior of the ship and repair it. I don't know why you wouldn't stop the ship to complete this repair. I can only assume Dr. Briefs doesn't trust Goku can pilot the ship in any capacity, so do it while you're flying, I guess. After a bit of kind of like a goofy space sequence where this martial artist who is in no way qualified to do any of these repairs actually repairs the ship, but now there's a new problem. The ship's been blown off course because of drag in space. Okay. And is now headed straight into a star. So what's a Goku to do? Well, get back in the ship so Dr. Briefs can walk him through the course correction, obviously. Except the unqualified technician somehow glued his boot to the outside of the ship. So he decides to improvise and push the ship back on course with a Kamehameha wave. It appears to work at first, but the ship is kind of like stuck in the star's gravity well, and so it starts to like get pulled back to the star a second time. So Goku just, does it again, but way harder this time. Anyways, back on Namek, someone needs to call CPS on Vegeta for abusing his newborn ability to sense ki. He also engages in cold-blooded murder and robbery, but it's okay though because he gets redeemed later. It's fine.
It's fine.
It's fine. Just ignore it.
They're not really people.
Yeah, they're like slug/plant people. It's okay. Yeah. Fun group of episodes. I liked them.
Yeah. They're a little slow, you talk about like the older pacing, the previous pacing, say in the Saiyan arc or in OG Dragon Ball, the episode, there's like 2 different episodes where Frieza is terrorizing this village. Like one ends with like those 3 kind of warriors coming, and it like ends there. Those 2 episodes probably would have been 1.
Yeah, I think you could probably have cut some stuff out of that to make
faster paced, more old school type of Dragon Ball pacing. We are at the point where the pacing is slowed down.
I haven't really mentioned it, but like even the recaps and stuff at the beginning of the episode have been getting longer.
Yes.
And now with the intro as well as the recap on these episodes, you're talking like the first 5 minutes of your episode is just filler.
Yes. But despite the slower pacing, these are still a fun batch of episodes.
Yeah, I think this is one of those ones where like they're like, we got to stretch it out a little bit, but they still manage to kind of keep that tension present.
And a big piece of that is because you've got this big old heckin' menace Frieza just hanging over everything. And in general, like our 2.5-ish heroes who are on Namek are completely outmatched.
Oh yeah.
So it is that
they can't engage in any kind of combat whatsoever because they would get wiped.
Right. So it is that like cat and mouse type of thing where slower pacing doesn't super hurt you because it's that like hide and seeky type of stuff. So you can stretch that tension over.
Sure.
It's easier to stretch the tension over like a cat and mouse type of thing at a slower pace than it is like a battle, which won't stop anyone from trying.
Examples of soon.
But this is a fun batch of episodes. But so this week, I was so like nervous that we were maybe not going to have enough to talk about, because when you look at like this batch of episodes and even then the next batch of episodes that we're going to talk about, and probably even the next batch of episodes after that, they start getting, because of the pacing slowing down, it starts to be like, uh-oh, what new thing is happening that we can talk about?
Yep.
And I was like, oh, we could do Dodoria. And I was like, but Dodoria's not really a whole episode. And I was like, well, we could do Zarbon, but again, Zarbon's not like a whole episode. We are going to do Dodoria and Zarbon in our next episode.
Yep.
Combined, and I think that's like a good, like those two characters can fill an episode. But so that kind of left us like, what to do this week? Good news was, as Bekinney alluded to multiple times in his recaps, as we were watching them, I was like, man, those are some fast-ass communications that they're having.
Yep.
So rather than do a character or thematic breakdown, we're going to do a sci-fi tech breakdown. So if you liked the episode when we talked about the Saiyan attack balls and talked about how those could or could not be real in any way, and we talked and we went into like the Soyuz rocket and talked about Vostok 1 and stuff like that, strap in, because this episode is going to be like that discussion, but more confusing.
Woohoo!
This moment of clarity whilst watching Bulma bathe, that's a phrase that I'm sure has been used differently.
That's a phrase that you and Master Roshi have in common.
Yes. And Vegeta.
And probably Vegeta. Vegeta would be in the tub with her, probably.
Probably. He wouldn't,
At least according to Daima, right?
Exactly. But, yes, I was blown away by how she's communicating in real time with her father back home. Now, if you take what we know about the distances and speeds and times that have been thrown around in previous episodes, and then just Google, because I didn't want to do these calculations by myself, Namek is something like 45 light years from Earth, meaning it should take that long to send a message back to home, and then also as long to receive any message back, meaning that's a 90-year round trip to send the message back to Earth of like, hello.
Yeah.
And then get a
not exactly an efficient form of communication, if we're being honest.
And then get a hi, how are you back? And yet Bulma is having a phone call with her father, essentially. How can that be possible? So we have to assume that this is not a phone, it is an ansible. Now, if you don't know, ansible is a generic name that comes from a specific thing. It's kind of like Kleenex. I think.
Well, tissues would be the generic name, but Kleenex is the specific brand,
yeah, but everyone just calls it a Kleenex.
Yeah.
That's it's a name that has become so much the thing that it is the thing.
Okay, I get what you're saying.
Right? The actual thing is it's a faster than light communications device.
Right.
But Those are just all called Ansibles now.
Fair. Okay.
But it is a communication device in science fiction that uses faster-than-light technology to instantaneously communicate over distances that would, if using current technology, take minutes, hours, years, months, days, whatever, for sending messages, depending on how many light minutes away you are, because radio waves travel at about the speed of light. So it takes like 5 seconds to send a message to the moon, for instance. That's not terrible, but there is a communication delay that becomes longer and longer the further you get. In the case of Mars, due to the differences in distance, it can take between 3 and 21 minutes to send a signal to Mars, because the orbits...
Yeah, the position of the planets, because it varies, right?
Yes. So anywhere between 3 and 21 minutes to send a signal to Mars. I think in like The Martian, did they use like 8 minutes? I can't remember.
I think it was something like that. It was kind of like an average number.
They were like, oh, whatever happens is going to have happened 8 minutes ago. That's a good movie, by the way.
Excellent movie. I recommend it.
Highly, yes. But so, as I'm watching these episodes and I'm seeing Bulma instantaneously communicate with her father, I personally thought of Ender's Game.
Okay.
But the first ever use of the word ansible comes from the 1966 novel Rocannon's World by Ursula K LeGuin. The word ansible is etymologically a contraction of the word answerable, as it allows users to receive answers to messages in real time over interstellar distances. Though Le Guin invented the term ansible, the concept of faster-than-light communication has previously existed in science fiction, with the first known version being the Interocitor from the 1952 novel This Island Earth by Raymond F. Jones, which coincidentally is the basis for the movie that we just recently mentioned in our The World's Strongest Commentary, with the Metaluna Men creatures who look just like the Biomen created by Dr. Wheelo. So go check out that previous podcast. This is our
so many connections.
This is our Final Forum podcast thematic universe.
Yeah.
There needs to be a word for, like, it's the cinematic universe. It's like the podcatic universe.
The Audible universe? I don't know. Nah, Audible be too much with the
they would
Audible service. Yeah, I never said that. We're going to edit it out.
Jeff Bezos is going to sue us. Which, I mean, that'll be our biggest exposure, so bring it on, you bald bat.
Edited by Lord Frieza for our listeners' safety.
Sure. I choose to look at it that way, and not at the horrible financial ruin.
One of the reasons Le Guin's Ansible has stood the test of time is that she provides technical explanations for how the device works and its implications in her world building. However, she's not the first to offer such an explanation. That honor belongs to Robert Heinlein, most notable for writing Starship Troopers, which the movie's
very
awesome.
Different from the movie.
The movie's awesome. The book is basically like playbook for the current ruling management of this country.
Starship Troopers is about fascism, folks. That's really all you need to know.
They're remaking it. Have you heard that?
They better not.
They are.
Oh,
and they're probably going to make it more accurate to the novel, which
Well, then I guess I'll watch it and complain about it.
Yeah. Starship Troopers is awesome. Paul Verhoeven is incredible.
Yes.
If you haven't watched Starship Troopers in a while and you remember it being boring or dumb or whatever, rewatch it now, understanding that it is a satire and that the point of the movie is that the heroic characters we follow the entire time are the villains.
They're basically Nazis.
Yes. Rewatch it with that in mind, and it becomes awesome. Also, by the way, Starship Troopers 3 Marauder is really good.
I didn't even know there was a Starship Troopers 3, so I guess I'll check that out.
Skip 2. Well, some people have said they like 2. I think it's mostly boring. 3 is awesome. You don't need to watch 2 either.
Oh, okay. So it's like self-contained?
It's not self-contained. It has Johnny Rico in it, but the second one doesn't.
Okay.
The second one
then
doesn't
who wants
have
the
Rico.
second one then without Johnny Rico? Forget
It's
that.
like just boring. It's just like another story of like the war going on another planet. It's boring. I didn't like it. The third one is awesome. It's got that same, like, what the second one lacks is that biting like satire and the pitched at humor.
Yeah.
Thing. The third one has that back. It's great. It's also like the third one is very much a dig at religion too. So
Baller.
it's not as good as the first one, obviously.
Well, I mean, because that's like cinematic masterpiece.
Yeah. But anyways, Heinlein, in his 1958 novel, The Time for the Stars, brought an explanation for faster than light travel. It was telepathic communication under the Non-Einsteinian principle of simultaneity.
This is a lot, so I guess we'll just start there. So relative simultaneity is non-Einsteinian insofar as it precedes Einstein, but it also exists within Einstein's theory of relativity. The concept of relative simultaneity exists and states that even if two events take place at the same moment, they may appear to take place at different moments relative to a traveler in spacetime. So there's no such thing as absolute simultaneity. Rather, it is all relative to the observer's frame of reference. For example, if a car crash were to occur on Earth at precisely 3:14 and 16 seconds, and a meteor crashes into Mars at precisely that same time, an observer from a fixed point may see those two things happen at the same time. But one traveling from Mars to Earth on a rocket will perceive them taking place at slightly different times. The initial groundwork in this theory was put forth by Heinrich Lorentz, who found inconsistencies with Newtonian physics and Newton's assertions that space and time were absolute. From there, Henri Poincaré refined Lorentz's theoretically observed time transformations to finalize Lorentz's formulas, resulting in an exact set of equations dictating how time transforms depending on motion, known as Lorentz transformations. And like, you can kind of see this, how like if you were to sit in an office chair and spin yourself really fast and watch a clock, you would notice that seconds would start taking a little bit longer the faster that you spin. This work was all done under the umbrella of Galileo's theories, which dictated that all motion take place through an aether of some kind. Einstein's key contribution was that aether didn't matter, and these theories apply in a vacuum as well. This is all a big simplification of a very esoteric theory of physics. So if this interests you at all, by all means look into it further, because it is fascinating stuff, but it's also very heady. So
yeah,
it's dense. It might take you a bit to get through it. Einstein further proffered a thought experiment that either helps explain this or makes your head hurt more, depending on your level of interest and aptitude for this stuff. So in Einstein's thought experiment, a train is speeding down a train track with a single passenger at the exact midpoint of the train. The train speeds past a platform upon which there is a single observer. At the absolute instant the passenger and the observer are aligned in space, lightning strikes the front and back of the train at the same time. To the person inside the train, moving at the same speed as the train, the strikes will indeed appear simultaneous. But to the observer, the front of the train will be struck first and the back of the train after.
Yeah.
Think of it kind of like a Doppler effect almost, if you will. Like when you hear a siren go by, when it's coming towards you, it's one pitch, but when it goes away from you, it's a different pitch. It's kind of something similar going on there.
Right. It's heady stuff. It like twists your mind to think about it a little bit.
And in just like most physics, it goes counter to what you would expect.
Right. Quantum physics, like physics on a macro level, all goes the exact way you would expect. That's like what physics is on a macro level, is like the ideas of like statics and dynamics and how objects behave when forces are exerted upon them. It all makes sense and it's all like readily observable. And then you get down to quantum physics and it all goes out the window.
You get down to quantum physics and it's like 2 + 2 is purple.
Yes. So Heinlein used the idea of telepathy to get around a bunch of these issues with light speed. And this was his explanation for how faster-than-light communication happened in his stories, or at least in this one story, Time for the Stars, wherein humans utilize twin pairs to communicate over interstellar distances, a study of which allows humans to invent faster-than-light travel. Le Guin, on the other hand, apparently didn't want to invoke what kind of amounts to magic, essentially, as an explanation. Yeah. The ground rules in her work, with Rocannon's world being part of what is considered to be a series known as the Hainish cycle, which is a term Le Guin actually rejects. I don't know why.
She just doesn't like it, I guess.
She didn't like... She wrote all these stories that are all in one universe, but doesn't like that people like lump them together in a universe. And actually, I kind of have a bit of a theory about that when we talk more about her later. I think she never went back and rewrote anything, but she was constantly adding as she understood the world better and more.
Mm-hmm.
And doesn't like the idea of like tying an older thing to a newer thing with more understanding and
yeah, okay, I can see where they're coming from with that.
Yeah. But anyways, the ground rules that Le Guin put forward are that humans cannot move at faster than relativistic speeds. In other words, not faster than the speed of light, but at speeds so great, relativistic effects come into play. Those relativistic effects are things like time dilation, mass increase, and length contraction. Now, we've seen a bunch of these things popularized in science fiction over the years, but Le Guin was a pioneer in her world building with this. She basically puts forward a world, or a universe rather, where interstellar colonization nears impossible because the travel times between worlds would make enforcement of any kind of a law impossible, but the communication between these worlds allows for knowledge sharing and loose organization. And she expands on this throughout her work, specifically calling simultaneity into play and stating that her ansible works on a similar wavelength to gravity itself, where one end has to be a fixed point on a planet of certain known mass, but the other end is portable, and in her 1974 book, The Dispossessed, even goes into the development of the theory leading up to the ansible's creation. As long as communication goes through a fixed point, any ansible can communicate with any other, like a satellite relay.
Okay.
Got all that? That was a lot.
That is a lot, and there's more.
But so yes, relativistic speeds, like basically she's saying you can't go faster than the speed of light. She's not inventing faster than light travel itself.
And as far as we know in physics, the speed of light is in fact the speed limit on the universe.
Right. And we also know, I think I mentioned this before, we also know that like traveling at that speed in a vessel that was like not a wave like light is, although sometimes it's a particle.
Yeah.
But
we've put enough physics on these poor people. Let's not.
But we also know that traveling at that speed creates a lot of potential issues. Like the instant you collide with any particle of any other kind at that speed, you create nuclear explosions. So
and we want to just, the reason why that's funny is because even though people assume space is a vacuum, it is not actually a vacuum. Within any given square meter in space, there's probably like a couple molecules of something. So the idea is that if you actually accelerated the ship, it would just be a chain of nuclear explosions as they fly past.
Just be like setting off nukes throughout space constantly.
Not a problem. Not a problem.
The concept and specifically word ansible have inspired a lot of people. David Langford, author, editor, and critic who holds the record for most Hugo Award wins with 29, publishes a magazine called Ansible. Notably, Orson Scott Card used the term in his Ender's Game franchise and is the key source for the term's propagation into other fiction. So like Le Guin used it forever, and then Card used it, and his stuff was like Ender's Game is more popular than anything Le Guin has ever written, frankly.
Yeah, sadly.
So when Scott Card was asked why he merely borrowed a term instead of coming up with one of his own, he said his ansible is, quote, Like the Ansible universe in Ursula K LeGuin's early Hainish novels, since I needed to use exactly that rule set, why not use the word, an excellent word, which I apply in the same way we all say robot, an invented word that has entered the language, and thereby pay tribute to the writer from whose works I learned the word. Unquote. So basically, he turned it around on the person asking the question and was like, why don't you ask everyone who uses the word robot to come up with their own special word? Now, Card kind of sucks as a person.
Yeah.
Like a lot. But that's a pretty awesome answer.
In a way. Because I feel like I don't think he's wrong necessarily, but also like it's like you took that from like one other writer, maybe two.
Yeah.
Is it the same situation as people using the word robot? Not in my estimation, but I'm also like I'm not really going to get into it because I don't feel like it's worth it. But
from what I could gather from glancing at her biography, LeGuin, who passed away at the age of 88 in 2018, a little bit of the anti-Orson Scott Card.
Gee, I wonder why.
Her writing shows a strong sense of value in cultural anthropology, Taoism, feminism, examinations of sexuality, and progressive socio-political views on race and gender. This is where I was getting into like why I think she doesn't like that her stuff is all put together.
Okay.
Because she even showed signs that when she was criticized by some for not pushing things far enough in her writing or for making mistakes, as in one of her novels, she largely explored androgyny but still used male pronouns for everything that was androgynous, that she took these criticisms to heart and would later write stories that corrected these faux pas. From what I could see, she never actually rewrote anything she published, so in that way she'd let things stand as a reminder of how things could be improved and evolve. So, yeah, she wrote a novel that largely explored androgyny and then still, like, everyone called themselves he and him and, you know, all that. And people in the androgynous community were like, I don't know. It's like they, them. And she was like, oh, I'm sorry. Like, I'll fix that.
Yeah.
The next time I write something.
Orson Scott Card, not quite as hip to the lingo.
Nope. Orson Scott Card, not many people's favorite person.
Basically, what we're saying is go buy Le Guin's books, not Card's.
Right. And if you want to,
but if you like Card's books, I guess that's fine.
If you want to read Card's books, consider doing so in such a way that he doesn't make any money.
Great. Now we're gonna have Bezos and Card after us.
Oh, I'm totally fine with making an enemy out of Orson Scott Card.
Yeah,
we could chalk him up as another person who's not allowed on the podcast.
If he comes after us, we could turn this into an Orson Scott Card hater podcast.
So yes, Le Guin, I think interestingly though, given what we know about how present day generative AI is trained, she was staunchly anti-digitization and specifically invoked fears about copyright infringement, and even more explicitly, Google and Amazon's lack of care about such protections for creators. Card may have given an awesome answer to one question, but Le Guin seems like she was an awesome lady.
Agreed.
And I think it's pretty interesting. She, in 2008, sued Google for their digitization project and was like, this is going to ruin copyright law. It's going to make copyright law meaningless. And that's 17 years ago. That's
and those are all things that they're currently debating now with all of their generative AI stuff.
Yes.
Don't want to age the podcast too much, but there was a thing just recently about was it ChatGPT being able to mimic Ghibli's art style? I think.
Oh yeah.
Did I have that right? Is it ChatGPT or is it just one? Anyway,
I think it's ChatGPT.
But she seems incredibly prescient in that way.
Miyazaki wishes he were dead so he could roll over at his grave with all this Ghibli generative AI.
I believe it. That's a sad man. So, how could any of this potentially work in reality? Well, for starters, as of our current understanding of the universe, it can't. One of the biggest reasons is that in theory, it would allow transmission of information to the past. If you could send information faster than light over short distances, you'd essentially be time traveling that information. This would create potential paradoxes and causality problems. However, there has never been any proof that such a thing is impossible. In fact, recently, physicists Ben Tippett and David Sang from the University of British Columbia and University of Maryland, respectively, have demonstrated that backwards time travel is actually mathematically possible. By the way, we say recently, and the posts have kind of been making the rounds on social media a fair amount recently, but the research was actually conducted in 2017 and was corroborated by a research team at the University of Cambridge in 2023, hence it coming back in social media. The Cambridge team even went further to show that there's a 25% chance of changing the past given the information sent from the future. Even better, their research showed that it was possible to know whether or not the past was changed, so theoretically, the attempt could be repeated until it achieved the desired outcome. The researchers simplified it by likening it to sending a gift like a pair of pants. 1 in 4 times, the pants would arrive exactly as ordered. But in another, the pants might be the wrong size. In a third, they would be the wrong color. And in a fourth, the pants might instead be a jacket. It was all unclear from the article whether those 75% failures were utter failures or if the change to the past was unpredictable and just not what was intended and therefore a failure. In other words, according to this research, if you mess around in the past, will you always change things but only the way you want 25% of the time? Or will the time stream find ways to undo the changes that you've done and correct itself?
Yeah, that was the part that was confusing to me.
It's confusing in general.
Well, it's confusing in general, yes, but like the 25% chance of changing the past, and they even with that example they used, okay, so if you intended to send someone a pair of pants in the past, but you sent them a jacket, you're still changing things, right? Just not the way you intended?
That's the way I would interpret it. So maybe their examples doesn't translate to the whole experiment, but maybe just that like 1 in 75 or 1 in 4 is what you intend to send back. Yeah. So I think that was more a comment on the process itself, not the effect.
I thought it was super interesting though that they're like, yeah, we also know theoretically, mathematically, we know that the past has been changed. Mm-hmm. So like mathematically, theoretically, it's like that there's any number of science fiction things about time travel that have like time travel agencies that are like, hey, a change just happened in the past. We need to go back and undo that change before it uncreates our world.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. And so it's like, is that what happens when you send stuff to the past and it doesn't change anything? That somebody else interceded and stopped it? Or does the timeline correct itself? Or is our existence a result of you sending that information back?
Yeah, crazy.
So scientists have done a lot of research with superluminal implications, including research into tachyons, hypothetical particles that move faster than light. To date, no such particles have been found and theoretically can't exist, but there have been fields discovered in quantum mechanics that exhibit faster than light speeds under some circumstances. However, their wave velocities are not faster than light and therefore would not allow for transmission of information at faster than light speeds. There's also been a lot of research done into quantum entanglement. This is something I've read about a little bit myself. The idea that subatomic particles are correlated at faster than light speeds, and if they could be physically separated enough, their quantum entanglements would allow for transmission of information at faster than light speeds. But issues have arisen both in the separation of quarks and in the predictability and encoding of preferred outcomes in a quantum measurement. So even if scientists could separate the quarks, the quantum mechanics of entanglement are so complicated and the outcomes of their communication are so random, it'd be kind of functionally impossible to use them reliably to communicate anything, really. Actions on quarks at these quantum levels do not have reproducibility is really kind of the issue.
Yeah, so that's like, even if you could figure out a way to separate two quarks that were entangled via quantum means and separate them across the galaxy, and send a message across them, it would get jacked up along the way.
Yeah, think of it kind of like in terms of Endgame when they take Ant-Man and they push time through Ant-Man instead of pushing him through time on accident.
Yes.
Kind of like that. Like they're kind of like playing with it. They're not really sure why they're getting the results that they do, and there's just still a lot more learning that they have to do before they can get any kind of reproducibility out of it.
Yes.
There's also been research done into wormholes, which is, as opposed to traveling the full distance, you fold space-time so that 2 points coexist in the same spot. That's what a wormhole is. And though this is almost entirely theoretical, a general consensus as of this time is that the energy required to open even a microscopic wormhole would prevent them being used for anything aside from communication of short messages, and therefore not really aid much in humanity's attempts at interstellar travel or colonization.
Right, so it kind of goes back to that, like, almost the LeGuin type of situation of, like, even if you could create these wormholes, the energy required to create them is so high that you're only using them for sending messages.
Yeah.
You're not capable of sending a ship through a wormhole because you'd have to explode 15 billion suns in order to create a wormhole big enough to send a ship through it. Which, I mean, don't get me wrong, certain people would very much like to blow up 15 billion suns, but...
I mean, I think it'd be cool to see, but I don't think I'd want to do it.
So yeah, we've said this before, we'll say it again, and we'll be saying it even more in the future. Did Akira Toriyama, the infamously inattentive student who lived in the sticks, know any of this? I mean, obviously, no.
I'm holding out hope. I think he did. I think he's a secret physicist.
Super unlikely. He, in fact, doesn't even call Bulma's communications device an Ansible. But like so much else in Dragon Ball, whether known to Toriyama or not, these are its roots, its background, and the culture that birthed it. This is all of the history that Toriyama's pulling on when he says, yeah, just like in any other sci-fi movie I've ever seen, where they just talk instantaneously, that's where it all comes from.
Sure.
Scientists have been studying simultaneity and relativity since the era of Isaac Newton and Galileo, and over time, those studies and ideas influenced science fiction writers until the idea of communicating instantaneously over interstellar distances becomes ingrained in the fabric of science fiction storytelling. When it comes time for Toriyama to send his manga into space and his characters to travel to other planets, he draws on his decades of movie and TV watching and thinks nothing of having his characters use long-range communications devices like this. That's all we're saying.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and the fact that the Elder taking out the Scouters is ultimately what causes Frieza's downfall on Namek.
Okay, are you gonna like hold this out until we get to like Frieza's actual downfall, or are you gonna explain that now?
I can absolutely explain that now. So my reasoning here is the Elder destroys the Scouters, which actually delays Frieza from collecting the last 2 Dragon Balls.
Okay.
So if he doesn't destroy the Scouters, I think the only Dragon Ball that he wouldn't be able to find the location of necessarily would be Vegeta's, because he hides it.
Correct.
But I think he would eventually find the Earthlings, and through the Earthlings, I think he would find the Dragon Radar, which would allow him to find the last Dragon Ball. And I think that could have been done well before Goku ever makes it to planet Namek. Because at this point in the story, Goku just started his trip, and it's going to take him 6 days. I don't think it would take Frieza 6 days to get those last 2 Dragon Balls if he still had Scouters.
Okay.
So that's why I think ultimately this leads to Frieza's downfall, because it gives our heroes enough time to get the big gun on the planet to take Frieza down.
Okay, now what about the issue that comes up? Do we want to talk about this now?
We could save it. If we want to come back to this, like we can come back.
Very briefly, I'll bring it up, and maybe we just relitigate it when we see Purunga. Okay. But what about the idea that Purunga only speaks Namekian?
Ooh, that's a good point. I'd imagine there's got to be some kind of workaround for that. Because, I mean, like, we know Popo's learned Namekian, and Bulma's learned at least enough Namekian to, like, pilot the ship.
Okay.
So I would guess that the Scouters are not only a power reading thing, I also tend to think that they're translators.
That's possible.
And it's sci-fi anyways, so... I mean, that's the way I would explain it. I have no idea if that's actually true or not. And it could very well be the case that without Namekian, he wouldn't be able to make a wish at all.
That's true. Potentially so. But yes, this faster than light stuff is so fascinating and mind-bendy.
Yeah. When you start invoking relativity, all kinds of weird stuff starts to happen.
Yes. And that's the bombshell revelation of relativity, is that the speed of light is a constant. That's the bombshell. Like, all of this stuff with how relativity comes into play when you're moving at close to light speeds and all of that, it all comes from work that was done before with like all this non-simultaneity stuff being applied to Einstein's assertion that the speed of light is a constant.
Yeah.
I don't 100% understand how.
I also don't 100% understand how.
But that's like when Einstein came up with the theory of relativity, that was like everyone's like, wait, the speed of light is a constant? Blah, that's it. That has all these effects.
Yeah.
And it is crazy stuff. And what would be even crazier would be any sort of evidence that the theory of relativity is not accurate.
Yeah, and I think the way that you break that is by determining that light actually isn't a constant.
Right. And that's
and a lot of your theoretical physics and a lot of like this crazy sci-fi and stuff kind of all is generated from trying to get around that idea that the speed of light is constant.
Right.
So like when you talk about like faster than light travel or travel through wormholes, it's about trying to get around that speed limit on the universe.
Right. And no one has been able to figure it out so far.
Nope. Probably not in our lifetimes, that's for sure.
Sadly. Things I'd like to go back and undo.
Can't undo too much though, because then, well, I mean, you've really only got a 25% chance of success anyways, according to Cambridge.
We just need to go back and stop someone from murdering Harambe, is what it is.
I think, yeah, that's definitely where things start to spiral out of control.
We just need to go back and save Harambe.
It turns out that the message that they sent back to the past was jump in the gorilla enclosure. And that's what caused this.
We need to send a robotic silverback back to the past. back to May 28th, 2016.
Is it like a mechanical endoskeleton in a biosuit, or is it like just a weird amorphous blob of liquid metal that can take different shapes?
Well, that would happen afterwards.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. The first one's got to go through, and then the second one follows through to kill the first one for not finishing the job. Right? I forgot.
Right. Yes. We're gonna send a robotic gorilla back to the past to kill a 3-year-old boy.
But maybe that's the problem. Maybe that's not the message that they wanted to send back, and we're stuck in the 75% of times that they failed.
Yeah. See.
It's a never-ending Ouroboros.
Edited by Lord Frieza for our listeners' safety.
Good, once you start thinking about this.
But so yes, that was our fun physics discussion for today.
We hope you guys liked it. There's probably going to be more at some point.
Probably.
As long as the characters are in space, I'm sure something will come up.
I still want my like average everyday physicist to come in and do the physics of Dragon Ball. Like, how dense would a boulder have to be? Like, okay, even early on, Goku and Krillin push that one boulder, but their hands are so small.
Oh, you're talking about I get you. Okay. Yeah.
It's like the material physics.
It's like if like a superhero with super strength wanted to hold a helicopter in place, they'd have to hold on to more than just the helicopter. Otherwise, the helicopter would just fly off with them.
Yes. Or like the idea of like if a superhero with super strength wanted to prevent a ship from sinking, they would have to have more than just themselves, because the stress of their strength on that small of a portion of ship would just tear a hole right through the hull.
Yeah, exactly. There's a really good article on this. It's titled Man of Steel, Woman of Tissue, and it explores the challenges of Superman dating Lois Lane in terms of physical differences. It's definitely not for children, because there's some explicit stuff in there talking about like certain physical aspects of their lovemaking. But assuming you are a person of age, go check that article out, because it is a hilarious read.
Awesome. I'll check that out.
That's all I got.
That's all I got for today, too. So, I've given a lot of thought to our listeners.
Well, with the quality of your discussion the past half hour or so, I could tell you weren't giving your full attention to the topic at hand.
Wow. That's... Okay, actually, that's a good one. I'll give you that one.
Yes, finally!
So, while Bekinney celebrates a rare win...
Wait, you're not going to inform our listeners more explicitly?
I think they need a week or two to stew on things and really give their brains a workout.
Plus, you gotta drag this all out for a few more episodes.
Yes, and I need to drag this all out for a few... No! How dare you impugn my integrity?
Integrity? You? I would never suggest it's anything other than what it obviously is.
The only appropriate response to that comment is side-eye, but I have to come up with something oral for our listeners.
Oral?
Oral. Listen, we're getting way off track here. How about we just shut this one down and try again next time?
Works for me.
Will we inform our listeners of our observations? Will we catch up with the blips on our long-range equipment? Find out next time and help us achieve our final forum.
Final Form is written and produced by Tom Gwelly. It is performed by Dan Kinney and Tom Gwelly. Our webmaster is Dan Kinney. Our theme music is provided by YouTube content creator GVG Kid. Want to learn more about the Dragon Ball universe, including concept art, behind-the-scenes interviews, and recommendations from Jelli and Bekinney? Connect with us on social media. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter at Final Forum Pod. Make sure to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you receive your podcasts. And of course, make sure to share it with your friends and family and help us spread the word of the glory of Lord Frieza. The Frieza Force thanks you for your listenership.